Hi everyone, it's William with the 1907 Diary series, and I've got a cold, started yesterday, so I hope I won't have to stop and blow my nose, but yeah, we'll see. We have kind of a long one today, the second part of a long diary entry for the 7th October, which was a Sunday. So if you recall yesterday, the big event was the opening of the Moscow branch of the Orthodox Palestine Society, and there was quite a lot of activity in relation to that. There was a liturgy that Dmitri said stretched on for about 4 hours, and then there was a little memorial service for Uncle Sergei, and the priest who gave the speech referred to him as a crowned martyr, which Dmitri found obnoxious. And yeah, he gave us some good description of that, how wax from his candle got on his horse guard's helmet. And so today we are resuming that. That long day is far from over. Where we left it yesterday, it was, it's not even lunchtime yet when we left yesterday. Now, Dmitri, I've mentioned several times, has a strange sense of time. He doesn't seem to quite, I don't know, what would you say? He doesn't seem to quite, note the passing of time in the same way that other people necessarily would. And as I say, he talks about this whole thing starting at about 11:30. He got dressed at 11 o'clock, and 15 minutes later he says they went to the meeting of the opening of the society, and then they went to liturgy. It dragged on for almost 4 hours, and there was a memorial service. But now he's telling us that by 1:30 they were all done with all of this. So, I don't know what to say about that. That's unique to him, and that's one thing about translating diaries. You're not dealing with text that has been edited and thought over, and so you're always second guessing yourself and saying, did I translate this right? Because it doesn't make sense. But the fact of the matter is, that's how people write in diaries. And with Dmitri in particular, when it comes to time, the diaries are full of these sort of anomalies. Okay, that's enough of a preamble. Let's dive in. After tea, we went back into the big hall where we listened to a not particularly successful speech by the Metropolitan, and then began to appoint members and a secretary, etc. Then there was a concert with prayers and hymns, and at 1:30 it all ended, and we went to have lunch just as we were, in uniforms with ribbons. I didn't say that correctly. Let's see. At 1:30 it all ended, and we went to have lunch just as we were, in uniforms with ribbons. After lunch, I went with Maria and Gulia to Niskuchny as a threesome. We harnessed Maria's filly to a yellow charabanc, and I drove it through some unbelievable places, and it was extremely amusing. We returned for tea, which was at 5 o'clock, and then I sat around upstairs until dinner time. After dinner, we played Diabolo for a little while, and then at 9:30, Tyotia went home to the interior apartments because she had a headache, and I also took everyone's leave, went to Tyotia, and apologized for not having invited her to come look at my room. She was pleased, I think, and touched, to the extent that she can be. Tomorrow I don't have any particular plans, except that I really want to go with GM and MN to the Zeman Theater to see The Maid of Orleans, but I guess we can assume that Tyotia won't let me go. 10:15. All right. So, let's see. I wanted to mention the Metropolitan. Last time, a few diary entries ago when he was mentioned, I did not look into that to see who he was. And it turns out he is now a saint. He is Saint Vladimir He was born Vladimir Bogoyavlensky. He was 59 years old in 1907. And to my thinking, he was a bit of an unsavory figure in one way, one really big way, which is that in 1905, during the revolution, the October Revolution, he issued this this speech to the people of Moscow and distributed it, and requested that it be read out loud to groups of people, and it referenced the infamous Protocols of Zion, apparently, and blamed that what was going on in Moscow on what the protocols identify as this Jewish plot to rule the world. I mean, really pernicious nonsense that caused lots of bloodshed. So, yeah, not good. So he was there in Moscow in 1907, but in 1912, when the Metropolitan of St. Petersburg died, he would be moving on to St. Petersburg. And that wouldn't work out well because he was then outspoken against Rasputin. So apparently he was a man who did not hold back in expressing his opinions, and in fact was really too far on the political end of the spectrum for what a bishop or certainly a metropolitan should be, let alone, anything, even a priest. But he was banished then from St. Petersburg and sent to Kiev, and that was where he was then when the revolution took place, and he was killed by Bolsheviks, and his body was mutilated, and in 1992 he was then acknowledged as a saint. So I think around the same time that the imperial passion bearers were as well. So, it is what it is. But that was who Dmitri was dealing with here in 1907. Okay, so the concert, the appointment, he says, maybe, I don't know, what do you do when you get new members and then appoint a secretary? So all of this, like a club, this activity, and then they're finally finished and they have lunch, Dmitri says, just as we were, in uniforms with ribbons. So I'm not sure if he means that they had lunch as a group there, everybody in their formal clothing, or if he and Ella went home and had lunch, but didn't change their clothes before lunch. So yeah, although Dmitri would have been, Ella was clearly not wearing a uniform with a ribbon, so I'm not sure, since he uses the plural, I'm just not sure what's going on there, but it's not really important, is it? So after lunch, he and Maria and Gulia go off to the Neskuchny Palace to have some fun. And they harness Maria's filly to a yellow charabanc. So a charabanc I had to look up, and it's quite large. I thought it was probably some little carriage, but no, it's quite large. Usually they have their, like, an open, now, later a car, but at that time a sort of big open coach with seating for maybe several people. They're large. And so they harness this poor filly to the yellow charabanc, and Dmitri is the driver, and he drives it through some unbelievable places, he says. He's starting to use this new adjective, невозможно, which means impossible. But, it seems to be his favorite of the moment, but I don't necessarily want to translate it as impossible in English. We wouldn't use that word in that way. And, he says it's extremely amusing. He has a lot of fun, and it's a little glimpse of that 14-year-old boy that we left behind back in 1906 who loved these kind of pranks. And it reminds me of an incident in my own childhood when I was driving just for fun my grandfather's little tractor riding lawnmower and tried to go around an obstacle that my sister had managed to go around, and ended up flipping the lawnmower on its side. But anyway, Dmitri managed to do this, thank heavens. So then they go back for tea, and then he is on his own until dinner time. So after dinner, they play Diabolo for a while, he says. And at 9:30, Tyotia excuses herself because she has a headache. So this was this nice little family group, but she has a headache, and it's late anyway, it's 9:30, so she goes off to, Dmitri says, she went home to the interior apartments. So she, if you live in a palace, you have your own rooms. You have your own, not just sleeping room, but little sort of set of rooms, like a suite in a hotel, apartment is a good way to call it. So she goes to hers, and yeah, Dmitri follows her because he wants to apologize, or he feels that he should. I mean, Dmitri had a very active conscience when he felt that he had done something wrong. He took himself to task for that. So this is not at all surprising. They had these big fights the day before, first over Dmitri's furniture, which he had bought without telling Ella, and then over what uniform he was going to wear and how he was going to wear it. And yeah, so he apologizes. And he thinks, and so what is he apologizing for? Well, he did not invite her to come to his room to see the new furniture. So my room, he says, in the singular. So maybe the furniture was actually bedroom furniture. He certainly had more than one room, but he uses this in the singular. So yeah, maybe it was bedroom furniture. And apparently she did allow Dmitri and Maria the level of privacy, at least, that she would not go into at least not into their bedrooms, without being invited. So that was good. And he had specifically not invited her after the fight of the day before to come and see this new furniture. So he felt bad about that, and maybe it was his way of apologizing just overall for the fights they had the day before about everything. But he's still not, he's still not looking at her in a warm way. He's saying that she was pleased and touched, but only, as he puts it, to the extent that she can be. So, Maria presents her in her memoirs, Education of a Princess, as really a cold fish until Sergei died, when she briefly had this moment in tears with the children where she apologized to them for being a cold fish and said that she had resented them. But, then she sort of, according to Maria, pushed her into this marriage, and just didn't really, act like a surrogate parent should, and with, affection and so forth. And we've seen the ups and downs of this in the diary entries going all the way back to 1906 when we started. And, so Dmitri here is still, he's saying what Maria said later, that she can only be touched to a certain extent. She's not really an emotionally engaged person. So I'd love to hear from any of you who are experts on Ella and who have done more reading from other sources, diaries and other sources about Ella, and maybe have a different point of view on this than Dmitri is expressing here. I would love to hear that. Unfortunately, my friend Chris Warwick in England has passed away. He wrote an excellent biography of Ella. So I can't ask him specifically about that, and it's really too bad because this would have been such good material for him. But so it goes. So then The Maid of Orleans is, I thought it was a silent film. I thought it was one of the early French silent films, very highly regarded, but I was completely mixed up with that because I think the film that I'm thinking of, I can't remember if it was silent or not, but it's an amazing film. But this is actually, 1907, I was thinking, yeah, there were some very early cinema at that time. But that would have been too early for the film I was thinking of. And I didn't realize it was a play, so I'll admit that point of ignorance on my part, which a cultured person should have known about. It was a play written by Schiller and turned into an opera by Tchaikovsky. And this theater, I looked up as well, the Zeman Theater, as Dmitri calls it. When you read about it online, it's referred to as the Zeman Opera, so it was an opera house, and it was established in Moscow in 1903, so it was only 4 years old at this time. And I think I said in one of the diary entries for 1921 that as much as Dmitri loved music, that opera was never really his thing. And I think I can still stand by that statement, although, there are instances I've discovered in the 1907 diaries where he is interested in opera, or at least he wants to go on the outing. So, you know who GM and MN are, the Lamings, the husband and wife who were taking care of him and Maria and would continue to take care of him after Maria got married, and they were going off, and apparently they didn't object to him going with them. It wasn't like a date night for them or anything like that. But there's Ella, the obstacle of Ella, as always, and Dmitri just assumes that he is not going to be allowed to go for whatever reason. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe because, as we'll see in tomorrow's diary entry, it's a school day with lots of lessons. So maybe that's why. Maybe that's reasonable. But, yeah, I guess, spoiler there. I let slip that he doesn't, indeed, he is not allowed to go. So that's that. I've been talking too long, but now here's something less exciting in my life than going out and buying brand new furniture, but it's, I love doing these out here in the backyard. It's really nice. It's still really nice. I think it's about 18 degrees right now, and it's covered, you can see, and there is lighting, so it's the ideal place, except once it starts getting really cold. I'm a wimp about the cold, and getting dark even earlier. Then, so I've been contemplating making a designated space for myself in the house. So, as I said, I haven't bought furniture, but I'm looking at paint for the walls, and when I hold these up, they both just look white. But the gray one is Urban Rainbow, and the blue one, yeah, they just look white in this lighting, is Distant Shore. A more romantic name than Urban Raincoat, I guess. So, but maybe I'll look for something a little darker than these two. So if you have any preference between urban raincoat and distant shore, or think that they both are unsuitable, you can let me know. And yeah, I don't have any Aunt Ellas in my life to tell me that I can't do the painting or that I need to choose a different color. But of course, I'm not 16 years old. So I will see you next time. Bye.